Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, can't sleep, or waking around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to your tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing really seems to be working. In fact, the scale might start moving in the opposite direction and you start feeling worse. But we know now that your body is inherently different than what it was prior to you experiencing these hormonal changes. So our mission here is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can live a life full of vitality, reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, the topic that I want to talk about is types of metabolism. So what I highly recommend you do is you go back 2 episodes ago where we talked all about what is a reverse diet, do you need one, do's and don'ts of a reverse diet. Then you listen to the following episode, which we talk about weight fluctuations during perimenopause, what you can expect in a reverse diet according to the scale. And then today we're going to dive deeper a little bit more into the nuances of types of metabolism. So why some people might gain weight during a reverse, why some people don't, or they might see changes for the positive in a reverse, why some people have really slow fat loss, why some people have quick fat loss, and really dive into the why. So this is kind of like a 3-part series. So I really recommend you go back 2 episodes ago, then listen to the following one, and then this one, just because it's going to be fully encompassing for you, and it'll really help you understand and tie everything together with a beautiful little bow so that it all makes sense. So let's just jump into this right away. Have you ever wondered why or how your body works the way it works when it comes to fat loss? Maybe you've noticed that your body may adjust really well to some things and not so good to others. We're going to talk about what metabolic adaptation actually is, how your metabolism actually works, and the 4 types of metabolism that we see in the women that we work with going through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopausal as well. So first of all, I want to do a quick little review on metabolism. I did a podcast a long time ago on ways to boost metabolism, where I talk a little bit about that. But I'm just going to do it briefly here so that if you haven't been listening for a long time or you're new here, you really don't feel behind. You can get a good understanding as to what's going on here. So I want to take a little bit of a step back super quick here, just so we're all on the same page and you don't feel lost. So our metabolism is how our body runs, how it utilizes energy, basically how many calories your body burns at rest. How good is your body at burning fuel? We talk about metabolism all the time. You see it in my posts, you'll see it in our emails, you'll see it on the podcast. So I'm not going to dwell too much here because, again, if you've listened to any content, you probably have a general idea as to what that is. But essentially, it's just how your body burns calories and functions the way it does. When someone says that they have a fast metabolism, we are referring to a body that runs really well or burns energy really quickly. It's very good at burning calories. So it's almost like you're a diesel truck. A diesel truck, you put some fuel in it and the tank empties pretty quick. It's very good at burning that fuel. That's a fast metabolism. That's what we want, because you can imagine if your body's very good at burning calories, it's going to make weight loss way easier. But when someone says they have a slow metabolism or metabolism isn't functioning super well, or some people will say their metabolism is broken, what they actually are referring to is that their body doesn't run super well. It doesn't burn energy very quickly. It's not super great at burning calories, even if you're like working out. So someone with a fast metabolism might burn more calories when they're working out or going for a walk, where someone with a slower metabolism, their body's just not as good at burning those calories. So this is almost like your body is more of a hybrid car, for example. In this situation, we don't want to have a hybrid car. Great for the environment, right? But for you, if your body's not good at burning fuel, if it's not good at burning calories, it's going to make weight loss a lot more difficult. So we want to try and get our body to become more like a diesel truck, because that allows you to A, function better, but also makes weight loss so much easier. So what are the things that make up our metabolism? There are 4 main things. So 1 is our basal metabolic rate, or our BMR, or basically just our metabolism. Then we have 2, which is non-exercise thermogenesis, or we're going to call it NEAT, but basically that's just non-exercise activity. So we're talking about gardening and doing chores and laundry and steps, that kind of stuff. Then we have 3, which is our thermic effect of food, how many calories our body burns during the digestion process, depending on the types of foods that we're eating. And then 4 is going to be exercise. So your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism, how many calories your body burns at rest, accounts for 60% of your calories out in a day, which means it has the greatest impact on how many calories your body burns. That's going to be a large determining factor as to whether you're a diesel truck or you're a hybrid car. So it's basically how many calories your body is going to burn just to survive if you were asleep or laying around all day, stuck on bed rest, for example. It's the energy that our body uses to keep our muscles alive, keep our digestion system going, keeping our heart beating, our lungs breathing, our diaphragm moving, our nervous system going, our brain functioning, that kind of stuff. It's just the basic energy that your body needs to survive. So we want our body to burn more calories at rest. How do we do this, right? How do we make our body better at burning calories? Because we know during perimenopause and menopause, a lot of things really slow down. We know like hormones are going to impact how well your body burns calories. We know that your muscle mass is going to impact how many calories your body burns at rest. So one of the best ways that you can actually boost your metabolism, to get your metabolism more like a diesel truck, is to increase your muscle mass, because muscle burns a lot of calories at rest compared to fat, because it's a very, what we call metabolically active tissue. It takes a lot of energy just at rest to keep it going, which is good. We want that. We can also improve this by making sure that we're not using our muscles as fuel. So we don't want our body to break down muscle, because if we're getting rid of muscle, then our body isn't going to burn as many calories at rest. And unfortunately, a lot of the traditional types of ways to lose weight do cause muscle loss. And I want to make it very clear that during perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, when estrogen goes down, our body has a much harder time building and maintaining muscle mass. So really focusing on this is going to be a huge part in you being successful in your weight loss journey, your health and fitness journey, just your health in general. And then you also need to know that if we're doing a bunch of cardio, that also tells your body to break down muscle mass. If you're doing a bunch of fasting, also tells your body to break down a bunch of muscle mass. If you are not having carbohydrates, your body will actually break down muscle, take those amino acids from the proteins it breaks down, takes it to your liver turns it into sugar, puts it into your bloodstream to provide you with energy. So because you're not getting enough carbohydrates in and providing your body with enough energy from eating low carb and low calorie, your body will break down muscle mass to do that for you. So we don't want to be fasting, cutting calories, cutting carbs super low, being go, and then also having these hormonal imbalances. And then if you have low testosterone, that's a double whammy. And now your body is just breaking down muscle, despite you prioritizing protein and doing a bunch of workouts. So this is where understanding how everything works together is really important. So that is metabolism. 60% of your calories out in a day are from how many calories your body burns at rest. So we want to make sure that your body is improving so that you are burning more calories at rest. Because let's say your metabolism, let's say you're burning, just for easy sake of number, 1,000 calories in a day is your calories out. Okay. And let's say 600 is from your BMR, 60%. If we can increase that by 10%, 15%, 20%, you're going to see a way bigger increase in your calories out at the end of the day, because we're having a bigger effort for that big number. Whereas if we're focusing on something like exercise to burn calories, which is only like 10% of calories out in a day, if we're increasing that by 10%, and that's only 100 calories, and so we're increasing 100 by 10, That's only 10 calories more in a day. Whereas if we're focusing on increasing your metabolism by 10%, that's 60 calories in a day. And again, 1,000 calories, no one's BMR or calories out should be that little. That's like a baby, to be honest. But I just did that for easy math because I'm going to be honest, I'm filming in the morning right now and math just doesn't happen before noon. I'm going to be honest. So the next part is NEAT, so non-exercise activity. So this can be 10% to 50% of our calories out in a day. So the thing is, most people have desk jobs, right? We're pretty sedentary. We're going to be in that 10 to 15% range. However, if you are someone who has a very active job, so let's say you're a mail carrier or you're a carpenter or you're just someone who is on your feet, go, go, go all day, doing a lot of manual labor type stuff, getting a lot of activity in, you are going to be closer to that 40 to 50% of your calories out in a day from your non-exercise activity. This is one of the best tools that we have in our toolbox to help burn calories more at the end of the day without causing hormonal distress, because the HIIT and the cardio can be a very big stress response on your body. And if you're already not eating enough food, you're already eating low carb, you're in hormonal imbalances already in perimenopause and menopause, that can be way too much. Whereas just increasing your steps is a great way to improve calories out without having to stress out your body. However, I don't like to utilize steps too much until we're into like a fat loss phase. So what I mean by that is, for a lot of people, you've listened to 2 podcasts ago, the reverse dieting, a lot of us need to be eating more food. But if you are getting into your reverse diet, you're at the top, let's say you're eating 2,200 calories. Now we're going into a deficit. So you're eating less food, right, to go into your fat loss phase. But if you're already doing 10,000 steps a day, how realistic for you is it to increase your activity more to burn more calories in a day? It's very challenging. So I like to use that and keep that in your toolbox for when you're going into a fat loss phase. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to be active. I want you to be active, but you don't have to reach for these crazy big numbers. Because for myself, when I'm losing weight, I want to eat as much food as possible and still lose weight. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm hungry, I am not a kind person. Taylor's like, have you eaten yet today? Because I love you, but I think you need to eat. And that's his way of being nice to say, I think you're grumpy and you need a snack. So for me, I love food. I don't tolerate being hungry super well. I really enjoy it. And for me, if I can increase my activity to increase my calories out, to have a bigger difference between calories coming in and calories burned, just by going for an extra 15-minute walk every day, as in a fat loss phase, as opposed to having to cut my calories down a bunch more, you bet I would much rather go for a walk than not have a little extra carb at my lunch or whatever that might be, right? So I always like to keep steps kind of in my back pocket as an extra tool for when I'm going into fat loss. Yes, I'm still active. However, I would rather do a little bit more activity than decrease my food intake because I love food. Let's be like, food is great. We should be eating food. We should enjoy food. So things that are included in NEAT are going to be walking, but also things like chores around the house, doing some yard work, doing things at work, fidgeting. This is something that actually slows down when we're in a fat loss phase subconsciously. You're not aware of it, but your body has all these internal systems to try and maintain calories in, calories out. We did a whole podcast on that as well that you can go back to. And then, of course, if you're someone who works in the trades or things like that, it's going to account for a larger portion of your calories out in a day. But again, I still want you to take steps. That's not me saying steps that I don't have to be active, because that's not what I'm saying here. But save that as a tool. Like, don't go crazy trying to hit super high steps, because then you have nowhere to go to help you in a fat loss phase when you inevitably hit some plateaus. So again, keep it in your back pocket. It's a great tool. The next one is thermic effect of food. So how many calories your body burns during digestion, because digestion, it takes energy. It's hard work for our body to digest food, believe it or not. But it depends on the type of foods that you're eating, how many calories you burn during digestion. So carbs and fat, you burn about 5 to 15% of the calories that you consume during the digestion process. So if you're eating 100 calories from carbs or from fat, you're going to burn about 5 to 15 calories from those 100 calories during digestion. Protein, however, is 20 to 35%. So if you're eating 100 calories from protein, you're burning 20 to 35 calories versus 5 to 15 calories. So you can see how over time that can really make a difference on calories burned in a day. This is why people get the meat sweats, when you eat a lot of meat. So I will never forget the first time in my hometown, there was one of those Rodizios where they come around with all like the swords with the meat on it, and they come and they're like, how much do you want? And they come around with chicken and beef and different cuts of steak and all these amazing, delicious meats. And you leave feeling hot and you're uncomfortable and like you're sweaty and warm. This is because your body heats up. It requires energy to digest that amount of protein. So again, that's actually like a physiological thing that happens, which I always think is really funny and really cool. But it takes a lot of calories to digest all those things. It's also important to note with the thermic effect of food, the more processed a food is, the less energy it takes to break down. So for example, let's say, a potato chip versus a baked potato. It's going to take a lot more energy to break down a baked potato than potato chips because a processed food is already partially broken down for us. So that's important to note. And also higher fiber foods. Higher fiber foods do take more energy to digest. So this can be beans, oats, whole grains. So breads that are higher in fiber. I hope you're not eating brains. I guess some people do, but that's besides the point. We're not going to even go there. Let's pretend that never happened. Let's reverse. But high fiber, fiber comes from carbs. So having whole grains, having oats, having quinoa, rices, potatoes, veggies, fruits, all those things have higher fiber and will burn a little bit more calories from those because that fiber content is harder to break down. So make sure you're having a higher fiber diet, making sure it's mostly whole foods because you'll burn more calories than more processed foods. So that's important to note too. The next one is exercise. So this is one where people are so fixated on how many calories they burn from their stupid smartwatches and activity trackers and things like that. And this is probably one of the things that honestly aggravates me the most. And of course, it's the marketing, right? The marketing you get from these products telling you how many calories you burn in a day, which are wildly inaccurate. They can be off by 90%, which is insane. So exercise, everyone thinks it accounts for so many calories out in a day. It doesn't. It accounts for like 10 to 20% max. Usually it's closer to the 10% mark of total calories burned in a day, which might be shocking to you because you're like, but my watch says like I'm burning 25% or 35%. No, this is why when we're getting you to track your food, we always get you to take away the extra calories it gives you from activity. We already factor that into your equations when we're calculating calories for you, but it's just so inaccurate. And if you're focusing on that, like you can see how if it's off by a lot and you're tracking that or using that as a reason as to how many calories you should be eating, you could actually be overeating by a lot, which is why I don't like these watches for that reason. Coach Hannah actually, now I posted this in our Facebook community, so I don't know if I posted it like publicly on socials, so I should probably do that. But she was wearing two different fitness trackers. So one was a Whoop, and then one was, I don't know if it was a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or what it was, but it showed a 800 calorie difference at the end of the day between the two, and the calories burned in the workout was drastically different as well. So can you imagine if she was using the one that told her she burned more calories as a gauge for how many calories to eat in a day? She'd probably be out of her deficit. She would be eating way more and probably seeing some weight gain. So this is why you can't rely on those trackers because they are so inaccurate. There's so much variance. They're just made with like a special calculation, right? Which they can be off if they're not reading your heart rate properly. And plus those calculations aren't accurate. Like if you listen to the podcast we did on calculating calories for menopause fat loss, it doesn't take into account some very important things, which is doesn't assess your current metabolism. Is your body good at burning calories, or does your body suck at burning calories? This depends on your hormones, your age, your activity levels, how much muscle you have, your past dieting history, how much sleep you're getting, how much stress you're under, how your digestion is affected. There are so many things that contribute to your metabolism and how good your body is at burning calories, which is why those trackers are not good for calculating calories out in a day. So what I'm trying to say is, do not rely on those. Exercise should not be used to focus on how many calories you burn in a day. Exercise, we should be focusing on building more muscle to help boost our metabolism, how many calories our body burns at rest, because that's 60% of our calories out in a day. So if we can increase that number, our calories out in a day is going to increase drastically. Do not focus on how many calories your body burns in a workout. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be completely honest. Doesn't matter. There's no way to accurately track that on trackers. Just don't worry about it. We tend to really overestimate the impact that direct exercise does on over-calorie burn, like I mentioned. And we underestimate the thermic effect of food, like how many calories our body burns during digestion. By just changing our whole foods, that can make a big difference, because the thermic effect of food can be higher than your exercise contributing to calories out in a day. Same with our non-exercise activity, how active we are during the day. That doesn't have anything to do with exercise. And the most important one is your BMR, your metabolism. How many calories your body burns at rest is one of the most important things. And if we don't improve that, you will struggle. So we focus way too much on trying to burn calories through exercise, as opposed to eating the right types of food, fixing our baseline metabolism, building muscle, recovering appropriately, eating at a consistent intake, focusing on steps, movement. Those things create a bigger impact than the exercise will on your total calories out in a day. So it's important to note that all 4 of those components have multiple layers of influence outside of us, and are also influenced by things in our environment on a more granular level. So for example, how many calories you burn in a workout is going to be influenced by the duration of your workouts, the intensity of your workouts, the environment. Is it hot outside? Is it humid? When I was working out with Taylor in Mexico on our honeymoon back in November, we did like 2 exercises and I thought I was going to pass out. Like, my heart rate was so high. I wasn't able to recover between sets, even though I was taking like 3 or 4 minutes. That intensity was so high just because of the environment that like the calories I would have burned in that workout and with just doing 2 different exercises was probably more than other workouts I've done at home, because the environment was so intense for me. And also it's going to show you like how much stress your body can elicit and recover from. So for me, like, we worked out once on our honeymoon because I just couldn't do it. Like, I thought I was going to puke. I got lightheaded. I even had like breakfast before. Like, it was a whole thing, but we still had fun. But like, I felt like I was dying. It was really hard. Then we have the thermic effect of food is going to be influenced by the contents of your food, how heavily processed it is, the fiber content, digestive difficulty, your protein content, how much food you're eating. Because the more food you eat, obviously you're going to burn more calories from digestion because you're digesting more food. And even caffeine amount. Your non-exercise activity is going to be influenced by your health status. If you are exhausted and your health is not great, you're probably not moving a lot, right? How much you move is obviously going to be directly impacted by that as well. Your hormone balance. So for example, if you're hypothyroidism or you're eating too little, your activity levels naturally, your fidgeting and things like that are going to be lower. Your job, your hobbies. If you're someone who enjoys knitting, you're probably sitting a lot more than someone who enjoys playing volleyball, for example. Your current nutrition intake, your age, even genetics to some extent will influence this. Because do you ever notice like some kids can sit and they're just chill and relaxed, and then you have other kids that are just like, super fidgety and always moving and tapping their legs? That's partially due to genetics, and that's obviously going to burn more calories the more that you're fidgeting. So your metabolism then can be influenced by body size, your health status, your hormone profile, history of dieting, sleep quality, your age, your gender, your muscle mass, your thyroid function, your current calorie intake, and a lot of things. So these things aren't static. So there's a lot that we can do to influence those factors, which is really important to note. And again, we have a bunch of resources on this stuff too, so you guys can always reach out, follow on Instagram. We're always giving away free guides, so always check there, because we pop through some of our most popular guides that are helpful for people. But there is so much that you can do to boost metabolism. We have a whole podcast on that as well. So that was supposed to be a short intro into calories out and metabolism before diving into the nitty-gritties of types of metabolism, but we're about 25 minutes in. Man, do I suck at time management. Okay, I'm sorry, this is going to be a longer episode, but stick with me. You're going to learn a lot, promise. So now let's talk about the difference between the calories that we consume and the calories that we burn is called an energy balance. Okay, so calories in, what we consume versus calories out. The body is always trying to balance this out. We have a whole podcast on calories in, calories out. Go watch it. So I'm not going to be here forever. But your body is always trying to keep things in balance. So if you're eating less, your body has all these internal systems to make your body burn less calories. When you start eating more, your body has all these internal systems to make you burn more calories, which is awesome. But lots of us are so scared to eat more because we always associated eat more, get fat, which is not the case. So let's talk about metabolic adaptation, because this is going to lead perfectly into our 4 types of metabolism that we see in women with menopause. And then how do we deal with these things, right? So metabolic adaptation is how your body responds to changes within or in the environment in relation to how it works or processes chemicals and substances. So basically the food that we eat, the energy we burn, okay? The body always wants to be in something called homeostasis. So again, managing energy in, energy out, has all these internal systems, and your metabolism will always, 100% of the time, every time, adjust to whatever you're doing in terms of the spectrum of your activity, your caloric input, so how much food you're eating, your energy that you're burning, your activity, in order to keep that equation on both sides the same. And it's a very, very smart process that is part of our overall survival mechanism to keep us alive. Our metabolism is never stagnant. Never. It is always changing 100% of the time, but it does usually work with a sliding scale or range. So the way I like to give you like a visual for this is think of a goalie in a net. Okay, so you have, that's like your maintenance, right? So you have, let's say 2,200 to 2,000 calories, and that's your maintenance. So if you're in that net space, your body's going to maintain. However, the actual net can slide up and down the ice. So it can come down to like 1,500 to 1,700. It can come up to 2,400 to 2,600. It's going to adapt and change based on the stimulus that it is receiving. Okay, so metabolic adaptation ensures that we always have enough energy to perform basic life functions like organs, brains, hormones, digestion. In a fat loss environment, metabolic adaptation signals to our body to slow down, to prevent fat loss when we are in a time of less food. That makes you mad because you're like, I'm not protecting myself from famine. It's not the apocalypse. Like, we're fine. I just want to lose 10 pounds for summer and look good in my bikini. That's all I care about, right? That's not how your body thinks. Your body goes, oh, we're receiving less food. This must be a stress. We must be in a time of famine or, something bad's going on. We need to prepare. So our body's metabolism slows down. So that sliding scale of 2,000 to 2,200 now decreases to say that's 16 to 1,800 because it doesn't want you to lose weight. It thinks that something bad is happening and we need to hold on to that fat for survival, which is awesome in times of chaos, right? And things like that back in the day. Not great when we just want to lose 10 pounds, which is really annoying. But I'm going to explain the 4 types of metabolism now for you. And hopefully this gives you a better idea as to what's going on. Okay. But basically you're at that 22 to 2,000 is your maintenance. You start eating below. So you're at 1,800 and then that scale kind of just comes down with it. So now your maintenance is like 1,750 to 1,950 and then you stop losing weight because your body is adapting to that, right? So But then we keep dropping calories, and our metabolism goes down and down and down and down. And we know that our metabolism is 60% of our calories out. So if that's slowing down, it's going to be a lot harder to lose weight because our maintenance keeps coming down. So now you're stuck, and we need to bring that metabolism back up, like I talked about in the reverse dieting podcast, so that you can have it back up to 2,000 to 2,200, and then you can drop down, be there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe 12, and then we slowly bring you back up. Because like I said, most people have like a 200 calorie range of their maintenance. So you lose some weight, we want to move you before you get stuck. So we don't want you to plateau. And then we bring those calories back up. So maybe now we're eating at 1,900 and your maintenance was, let's say, 1,850 to 1,950. So your metabolism comes up slowly with it. And now you're eating a little bit more. So maybe you're at 2,000, metabolism comes up with it. So this is how we do this properly. But nobody teaches you that. They teach you to crash diet, drop your calories super low to 1,200. Your maintenance was 2,000. And so you're losing weight, and you're there for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Now your metabolism is tanked and your hormones have gone with it. And now it takes a long time to bring that metabolism back up. But nobody teaches you how to do that, which is part of the problem. So, which again, we talked about in past podcasts for you. So go back 2 episodes. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the 4 types of metabolism that we see that really dictate, does someone gain weight in a reverse? How long does the reverse take? Why do some people lose weight quickly? Why do some people not lose weight quickly? Why do some people do shorter fat loss phases and longer fat loss phases? I'm going to explain everything to you. And hopefully as I'm talking, you can be like, that one is me. That one is me. And that will help you understand how to adjust your nutrition based on how your body works, which is very important, because if we don't know how our body works, how can we help it? So the first one is fast overall. So you are quick to adapt fast on the way up and on the way down. So what that means is, as we increase our calories, it's like, let's say your maintenance is 1,200 to 1,400. We bump you up and your metabolism's like, whoop, good, awesome. So we're not seeing a weight gain because your metabolism, your calories in, calories out, stays balanced the entire time as you come up, which is awesome. So this makes the reverse dieting process seem pretty easy. Minimal weight gain, you feel like your body stays relatively the same, but it makes your fat loss phase more difficult because now we have your metabolism up here at 2,000 to 2,200 and you drop your calories down to 1,800. You might see loss for maybe a week and then you feel like it stalls because your metabolism goes boop, comes down with it, and boop, goes down with it every time you drop your calories. So it makes fat loss a lot more challenging. So these people might have to push a little bit harder in a fat loss phase, or it might be an indication that they need to stay in maintenance a little bit longer. So staying up at that 2,000 to 2,200 calories or whatever we figure out your maintenance to be. I'm just giving that as an example. You have to stay up in that maintenance phase for a little bit longer to get your metabolism to quote unquote forget that lower adaptation. So we see this a lot in people who are chronic dieters or have been extremely restrictive for multiple times before. So this is pretty typical of people who've done Optavia, keto, things like that, or have really high levels of chronic stress or trauma. So what we need to do is, because like, remember how I said your body's very smart to adapt to the stimulus that it's receiving. So if you're someone who's dieted for a really long time, what we see is your metabolism remembers that. So you drop your calories and your body's like, oh, we remember when this happened. This was really bad. It was very stressful. So your metabolism comes down very quickly. So what we need to do is allow your body to be safe, to feel nourished, to give it time before dropping your calories. So this is where I always argue with, I shouldn't say always argue with clients. It's not a good way to word it. I always like to give the example of Penny. And if you've listened in our group chat, our group webinars and stuff in our Facebook group, you've probably heard this story before. But I had this client named Penny. I obviously changed her name for obvious reasons. But it was a great example. So I've been able to use this a lot. But Penny was needing to reverse. I wanted to wait. We got her up to her maintenance. I was like, let's wait another 4 to 5 weeks. And she's like, no, I feel good. I feel ready. I want to drop my calories now. And then I said, she was very adamant on it. So I made her sign a little paper that said, going into a fat loss phase, despite coach wanting to keep her at maintenance for another 5 weeks. If these symptoms occur, so sleep gets crappy, energy gets worse, digestion gets worse, symptoms of like hot flashes and stuff come back, we're pulling you out. Or if we're not seeing changes, then we have to do the protocol as coach wanted. And she said, okay, made her sign the paper. So we did our 8-week reverse. I wanted to be in that reverse till like 13 weeks-ish. So about 3 months. She wanted to cut it short and do it only 2 months. Went to her fat loss phase. We dropped her calories by 300, saw nothing, 400, nothing, 500, nothing. And then she started having some symptoms come back. So basically, we were in a fat loss phase for 8 weeks and saw no change, and she started to feel worse. So then I had to have the I told you so moment. Okay, do we agree to do this my way now? She said yes. She was not very happy because she spent 2 months in a fat loss phase and saw no changes. So then we had to slowly bring her back up again, which took about 4 weeks. Then we had to do staying in her reverse at her maintenance for another 5 weeks, 6 weeks, somewhere around there. And then we went to a fat loss phase. And then she saw changes. However, with this person, because they were impatient, they could have done their 8 weeks of reverse plus the extra 5 weeks like I recommended, which would have taken her to 3 months, then gone into a fat loss phase and started to see changes. But instead, we did 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 5 weeks, and 5 weeks, and then saw changes. So instead of waiting 13 weeks, we ended up doing 8, 16 plus 4 is 20, so 25. So instead of waiting 13 weeks total to go into a fat loss phase, because those 4 weeks, she just couldn't do it any longer, and we ended up having to wait 25 weeks before we actually saw fat loss. 25 weeks. Do you know how many months 25 weeks is? That's 5.5 weeks, or that's almost 6 months. That's almost 6 months. 26 weeks is 6 months. So instead of waiting 3 months and going into a fat loss phase, she only wanted to wait 2. And then that added an extra 4 months to her journey before she could start seeing fat loss. And it was because of this. She had a history of pretty aggressive diets, yo-yo dieting for a long time, hopping from one diet to the next, lots of hormonal imbalances and symptoms. And she had a relatively easy reverse diet. So she was like super happy about that. And she's like, hey, good, I'm great. I can do this. And I was like, I don't think so. But we really don't know how your body is going to respond until we do that first fat loss phase. But we can usually tell pretty quick within a month of, okay, we either have to drop more aggressively and because your body adapts really quickly, or we need to keep you up higher. Like it doesn't take too much for us to really figure out how your body responds. On the way up, it's pretty easy to tell. On the way down, if you're working with a coach, it's pretty easy for us to be able to tell for you. But again, usually these people have to stay at maintenance higher because metabolism adapts fast on the way up, which is great for a reverse, fast on the way down, which is really hard in a fat loss phase. So that's fast. Then we have slow. So slow all the way around on the way up and on the way down. So this type of person is going to find the reverse diet more challenging, but the fat loss phase is a little bit more responsive. So this type of metabolism usually has to take the reverse diet a lot slower. So they might gain some weight during the reverse. This is why for some people, we always recommend increasing very slowly off the hop. We're not just going from 1,200 to 1,800 calories. That will result in fat gain. We do not want that. We recommend increasing by 50 to 100 to start. See how that is. See if we can jump it up by 100 next time or 150 and really see how your body responds. That's going to tell us, are you fast on the way up or slow on the way up? So someone with a slow on the way up, it's obviously going to take longer because we can't jump up as quickly. And you also have to realize the timeline will be longer. And we also have to realize that we can't increase as quickly. So this is going to be a longer process for you. But the trade-off is less risk of weight gain than you would if you were to increase super quickly. So fat loss is fairly typical with these people. However, as when energy balance is being manipulated, fat loss can be elicited. This doesn't mean like super steady fat loss. It means your body will see fat loss. Doesn't mean you're going to see huge, crazy changes in fat loss. Okay, so I want to put that nuance out there. That doesn't mean you're going to drop your calories and drop 10 pounds in a week or even a month. It means that you're going to see fat loss. The rate of fat loss is going to be different for everyone. And again, dependent on a lot of different factors. This is why I can give lots of recommendations for reverse dieting, just generically for most people. A fat loss phase is a lot more challenging because for some people, we really got to pay attention to how many carbs you're having at meals to help you with blood sugar response or fiber or protein or adjusting your activity, adjusting your workouts. Because if you're someone who is fast on the way down, Typically, we're going to help you with more steps, for example, to help you try and get more of those calories burned in a day. As opposed to someone who's slow on the way down, we typically don't have to be as aggressive with those types of things. So again, that's slow on the way up, tougher in the reverse, easier in the fat loss phase. Then we have the mixes. So fast on the way up, slow on the way down. So this person has, quote unquote, the easiest time in a reverse and in a fat loss phase. So these are the people that like you compare your journey to theirs and you're like, I hate you. This isn't working. I'm so jealous. This sucks. And it's because of the type of metabolism they have. So you have to realize you cannot compare your journey to anyone else's because their metabolism might be vastly different than yours. So fast on the way up means you don't really see tons of weight gain on the reverse up. You find it very easy. Your metabolism's slow to come down. So you drop your calories and it takes weeks for your metabolism to slow down, which is awesome. Good for you. And they'll see minimal weight gain on the way up, and fat loss will be easier on the way down because of those changes. So these people typically have not dieted for years, and they have worked to reduce environmental stress significantly. So before, for myself, I was kind of slow. I shouldn't say that. My metabolism was quick on the way up, but it was also quick on the way down. So I had an easier time putting on muscle mass and things like that in a reverse, but I struggled with weight loss. So I really had to focus on improving my metabolism. That was really important. Now I'm fast on the way up, slow on the way down, quote unquote, the easiest, but I reverse dieted for almost a year. I had a very big history of hopping on different diets when I was in university, despite being in kinesiology and exercise science and taking nutrition certs, because you always think you're the exception to the rule, right? You always think that, oh, that's everybody else, but that's not me. No, you're just like everybody else. That's a news flash for you. But I used to be fast on the way up, slow on the way down. So I struggled with that a lot. So I wouldn't see a lot of weight gain on a reverse, but I would really struggle with trying to lose fat mass. And I had done so many different diets. Like I did really low carb for a while. I did where the only carbohydrates I had were fruit or veggie. My breakfast would be a kiwi and 2 strawberries. Like that's what I had for breakfast. But I would fast first, obviously, and only have coffee. And I grew up in a very high stress state. Just lots of trauma with my dad, lots of moving around, had a hard time finding my people. And I feel like I'm just finding my people now, which is crazy. Was not in good, healthy relationships. My first high school boyfriend was great and that was good. And I felt safe. And then things went sideways for a while there. And now we're good. We're here. We're happy. We're married. We're doing the things. But in that stress time of like, go, of taking the biggest course load I have ever taken in university, working 30 hours a week, taking care of my mom who had just gone through cancer, being in a not great relationship that was emotionally and physically abusive, then being in, like just constant stress and the trauma from my dad and, running away from my feelings and working out super crazy and not eating enough food and being scared of carbs. And then I did this stupid challenge of 30 spin classes in 30 days, which just destroyed me. I went down in weight. My pant size went up by an extra pant size. I lost all my muscle tone. And I really messed up my body, added some birth control to that like completely messed up my hormones. And it was a disaster. So then after my mom died, it made me really take inventory of my life. What do I want? What makes me happy? Overworked myself, not wanting to deal with grief, and then really had to, focus on my health. So I actually reverse dieted and ate at maintenance for a little over a year, focused on not doing any more cardio because that was like crushing me. I focused on resistance training just 2 to 3 days a week, putting on muscle mass, really emphasizing my sleep. That was like priority number 1. Doing things that filled up my cups, going for walks, doing work that I was really passionate about. That's where I really turned into this stuff. And now I'm at a point that like when I wanted to lose weight for my wedding, it was fairly easy because I was eating at maintenance already. I was good. I had muscle mass. went into like a 6 to 8 week deficit, did really well, came out of it, was super happy with my physique, and then focused on my hormones to help us get pregnant, which was great. But like a fast to slow adapter, like the person who has the easiest time losing weight, they aren't someone that's dieted for a very long time. They haven't done lots of yo-yo dieting, experienced a lot of stress, or they've spent like the good part of a year really setting yourself up for success. And for some people, it might not take that long, especially if you haven't done a lot of diets and things like that. And everyone thinks like, oh, this person's so quote unquote lucky. Like, yes, but also no, because that person probably also put in the work to improve their metabolism, right? So it's really important to know that, can this happen naturally for some people? Yes. Can people get there? Yes, but it takes time. It's not going to be quick. And then we have the people who are slow on the way up and fast on the way down. And these are the people who tend to struggle with both the reverse diet and the fat loss phase. So they may not be feeling their best, or they struggle to adapt to more food, potentially gaining some weight in the process as their body struggles to speed up. So this might feel like you're really force feeding yourself. Like some people really struggle with the reverse, and it's like, okay, we might have to be, let's say you're trying to get to 1900 calories. Maybe we're stuck at 1700 calories for a little bit. Maybe we're increasing by 20 calories a week, like very small amounts, because it's very challenging for you, right? So this is where people really seem to struggle, is with this kind of metabolism. This is where I really encourage calorie dense, low volume foods. So nuts, seeds, dairies, things like that, dried fruit even, because they don't take up a lot of volume in your tummy. So you don't feel as full, but they still have the calories that you need to make it a little bit easier on you. But then we see them go into this fat loss phase and their metabolism drops very quickly. So on the way up, it inches up slowly. So that process takes a long time. But then you go to drop your calories and it's like, whoop, metabolism comes down with it, which can be, again, very frustrating. And it seems like an increase in exercise and like dropping calories. It seems like they have to get more restrictive sometimes, or sometimes it seems like you get really restrictive and you don't see a ton of changes. Like your body just isn't responding. Typically, these people have immense current levels and a history of extremely high stress, as well as an autoimmune condition, or thyroid issues can also make this more challenging, or more likely, I should say. These people need to take way more time and have way more patience in both the reverse dieting and the fat loss phase. And they might have to do some more specific type nutrition protocols. So this is something that we see, particularly people who have pretty severe thyroid issues or have had monumental amount of stress and they think they're quote unquote handling it well, but they're really not. So we might have to do more like anti-inflammatory type practices, be incredibly more intentional with de-stressing techniques in order to see those results. Typically results will be slower in both directions for these people, which sucks to hear. But typically if you have hypothyroidism and autoimmune conditions, usually those manifest from really high stress states. So you have to realize that it does take time to heal your body, to get you to a place where your metabolism is working more in your favor to make these things easier. So those 4 types, just to reiterate, are either fast on the way up and fast on the way down, which makes reverse easier and makes fat loss a little bit more challenging. Slow on the way up and slow on the way down, which makes reverse more challenging but fat loss easier. Then we have fast on the way up, slow on the way down, which makes it easier both directions, and then slow on the way up and fast on the way down, which makes it challenging in both directions. So based on your dieting history, or maybe you're working with a coach right now, or you're doing things on your own, you can probably identify like which one you kind of think you're in, at least on the way up, right? Like that's usually pretty easy to figure out. So now here's the other question. What causes someone to have a fast or a slow metabolism? So there's a few different categories here. And again, this can help you understand your body a little bit better as well. So dieting history, this is one of the big ones. How many times have you forced your metabolism to slow down? It will give it more memory to slow your metabolism down every time you drop your calories with each diet that you've done. So every time you've dinged the system, it's like an extra reinforcement of, oh, we'll be quick to drop down. I just forgot how to breathe for a second there. I am so sorry. We don't edit things out, so what you get is what you get. Super sorry. So like I said, every time that you've dieted, it's going to slow your metabolism down so that your body actually adapts quickly to a fat loss phase, which means that you're not going to see as many changes. It makes it more challenging for your body to see those changes. Then there's also genetics. So sometimes we have a family history or just a slower or more adaptive physiology. So some people can be quote unquote born or brought up with a less or more adaptive metabolism. Some experts are starting to look at ancestral history as a contributor to this, which is pretty cool. People who have long dead family members now who have been through severe wars or big famines, those people now typically have a little bit of a metabolism that adapts quickly to a low calorie intake, which makes fat loss harder because that's just like part of evolution in terms of your body is adapting and you're like, that's been passed down from generation to generation where your body's like, oh, we've been through times of stress. We're going to be really good at holding on to fat, which sucks to hear. Kind of cool, but also sucks to hear. Remember though, and I don't want you to think of, oh man, because my genetics are this, I can't lose weight. No, there's a million things that you can control. So don't let that like frustrate you or make you feel like you can't achieve success, because that is not true by any means whatsoever. But our environment can contribute to which genes are quote unquote turned on. Coach Carrie Ann and I are doing a podcast on genetics that'll come out in a couple of weeks that will really help you understand this. But you can have a genetic predisposition to have certain things, right? So, for example, you could have a higher risk of developing, let's say, a cancer of some sort if that runs in your family. But if you're relatively healthy and you're active and dealing with your stress and eating well, you have a less risk of developing that thing, right? But then you have like a big stressful incident or nutrition really goes or activity goes down, those kinds of things. That can be the environment that pulls the trigger to quote unquote turn on that gene. So just because you have a genetic predisposition does not mean that you are doomed to have those things, that you can't see success or that you won't be healthy. Remember, genetics load the gun, environment pulls the trigger, and typically the environment that pulls the trigger is a bunch of stress from under eating, over exercising, not enough carbohydrates, not enough sleep, a lot of stressors. Sometimes that's like pollutants, right? So just because something runs in your family does not mean that you are going to get it, and it does not mean that you will not achieve success in the goals that you have. The next one is, of course, stress. If you followed me for any type of time, you know that cortisol and stress are one of my favorite topics. It plays a huge role in how our brain tells our body to release hormones, including our fat storage hormones, our muscle gaining hormones, our hunger hormones. And stress will cause the body to lean more towards fat storage than fat burning, since it's a protective measure to the threat of the stress of the environment. So we are constantly surrounded by stressors and we don't even realize it. So family stress, financial stress, work demands, sleep, digestion, fasting, cutting out calories, cutting out carbs, drinking a bunch of caffeine. These are all stressors on your body. And all the little things really add up, from being go, 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 shuttling your family everywhere, taking care of sick parents. Maybe you're dealing with grief. There's a lot. And I think a lot of us just like downplay how stressed out we are, and we don't realize the magnitude that this is actually impacting our health. So again, important to be aware of. The next one is recovery. Those who push too hard without proper recovery and rest time tend to adapt negatively compared to those who allow for proper recovery and rest. So similar to recovery, muscle mass, sometimes the amount of lean mass that you carry helps determine how metabolically active your body will be in each phase of your journey. So it can lean you towards a fast adaptation in the reverse and a slow adaptation down in the fat loss phase. So the reason we talk about recovery so much, and why whenever anyone signs up for our workout programs, there's 2 to 3 minutes of rest there. Sometimes there's more. And people are like, don't know how to handle it. They're like, I am wasting my time. If I'm in the gym, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to get as much done as possible. I'm going to get as much reps in as possible. I better be sweaty. No, especially in a fat loss phase, we want to make sure you're getting enough recovery. And especially if you're someone who is naturally very go, 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 is someone who struggles with sleep, you can bet 100% of the time you are going to have longer rest periods in your fat loss phase because you need that. And that's not skipping and putting away weights and pacing and like shaking your legs. You're just resting, and it's going to be freaking uncomfortable. But recovery is so important to really maximize the results that you're going to get. And this, again, is super downplayed and not talked about enough. It's not how much you do and how hard you work and how go, go, go you are and how productive you are does not mean better results. This is the whole premise of train smarter, not harder. Better is better, more is not better. Like this is a hard one to wrap our heads around because we're so used to having to be productive and go, go, go and hustling all the time. And honestly, that does more harm than good most of the time. And honestly, sometimes when it comes to metabolism, we just don't know. Metabolic rates and rates of adaptation vary substantially between people, no matter what size you might be. Because before, people used to think that if you were smaller, that you needed far less energy to survive, but that's not always the case. Like if you look at some of our coaches, like Coach Corinne, Coach Emma, Coach Beth, they're all very lean, but they're all eating like 2,500 calories, 26, 27. Beth was up to like almost 3,000 at one point, and they are not large people. So just because of like a size, that doesn't dictate how many calories your body is going to burn or how many calories your body needs. And this is where a lot of those equations really go sideways because they base your calories that you need on your age, height, weight, and like rough activity level. That doesn't tell me anything about your body at all. Like nothing. I don't know if you're working out in terms of a way that's going to improve your muscle mass. I don't know if you have a lot of muscle mass. I don't know if you're sleeping. I don't know if you're skipping meals. I don't know the amount of stress that your body's under, your digestive system, if you have hormonal imbalances. All those things are going to play a massive role in your metabolism and how effective your body is at burning calories. So this is like the caution of all those equations because there's a lot of assumptions that go with it. And this is why when we're working with clients, especially when they're going into a fat loss phase, once they've gone through the reverse, now we know how your metabolism is in one direction. Now we really got to watch that fat loss phase because a lot can happen in 4 weeks. And like, it sucks to go 4 weeks and not see changes, right? So being able to look in and tweak things and see what needs it changing, how your metabolism is probably functioning, what we need to focus on, de-stressing techniques and activity and all those things because it matters. So again, this is a lot of information. I hope this was really helpful. But to sum that all up, the 4 things that dictate calories out is your exercise, non-exercise activity, thermic effect of food, and then your metabolism. Metabolism is the most important. Exercise burns the least amount in terms of calories out in a day. We want to focus on improving your metabolism, understanding that everything that you've done up until this point has impacted how your metabolism functions. So if your body's good at burning calories or not. And then there's those 4 different types of how your metabolism adapts to a reverse diet and a fat loss phase, which can dictate, do you gain weight in a reverse or is it easy? Is it harder to lose weight in a fat loss phase or is it easier? How long does it stay up in a maintenance phase? And this is what we figure out through various assessments that we do in our coaching as well. But metabolic adaptation is one of the main reasons that we are so adamant about slow and sustainable fat loss. And why we need to reverse diet in that phase 1, like I talked about 2 podcasts ago. The faster that you lose weight, the faster our metabolism is going to adapt to that. So drop down, right? And we think that it might be easier if we just drop a bunch of weight, right? But the quicker you drop the weight, the more easy it is for you to gain that weight back when you come back up. So this is why we really focus on slowly to making changes for you. And the big thing is like in a fat loss phase, for example, usually we're doing more activity and eating less food. And then as soon as people are done, they decrease their activity again and up their calories. But then you're making that difference of calories in, calories out way smaller, which if your metabolism is slow to adjust can lead to weight gain afterwards. So this is why it's really important to understand how all of this works, especially if you're doing it on your own, because otherwise it can be really challenging. again, the more slowly and sustainably that we can lose fat and really focus on keeping our metabolism healthy, the better off our body is going to be over the next 5, 10, 15 years of our lives. And we can avoid that yo-yo dieting, losing weight, gaining it back, losing weight, gaining it back, because we don't want that. We don't want that for you. We don't want that for anyone. So if you need help figuring out where the heck to start, understanding how to calculate your calories, just message me, book a consultation call in the show notes. We calculate your calories for free. There is no pressure to talk about coaching whatsoever. If you want to, awesome. But I don't really care. I just want to help you understand your body, get you moving in the right direction, because it shouldn't be this hard to get the appropriate amount of help to make everyone feel better, to get healthier and get you moving in the right direction. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Please share this with any friends that you think are struggling, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.